All right, everyone, I will bring us to order here. Now make sure, especially if you're a precinct committeeman or an alternate, you got a copy of the packet that was in the back, which has the agenda and the minutes and a lot of information about this meeting. And there's also one other sheet that I didn't have a chance to put in the packet, which is right beside. We got about 60 copies, so make sure that you grab one if you need one. All right, can I have a volunteer to deliver the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, right there, Mr. Wasden.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have someone who would like to volunteer to deliver an invocation for tonight? Joel?
All right. If you are able, please rise. Almighty God, we come before you very thankful for our republic that you've given us. It's endured for many years, and we ask your blessing on it for many, many more years. We thank you that we have the opportunity as elected officials and as the general public to have our say in this great nation's activities and works. We ask your blessing on this meeting. We ask your blessing on the United States of America. May you protect it and defend it and preserve it. Amen.
Amen. Do we got a plan if the audio keeps getting kind of wacky? We just turn it down or turn it off?
The controls are over there, that's all I know.
Yeah, the gain's way too low.
Can you fiddle with it?
I would if I knew where it lived.
Maybe I'll put this up here right now. All right, we got a lot on the agenda, so we're going to try to get through it really quick. Just in anticipation is Justin, our treasurer here. If you could just have a seat up front here for the treasurer's report. We'll determine if we have a quorum, and then we'll get down to business. We are going to have a candidate forum, and then a debate on the Medicaid expansion, and then if we have any candidates who hadn't signed up, then we will have a second candidate forum near the end of the meeting. So, Madam Secretary, how are we doing on the quorum?
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Excellent. All right, well, here we go. So if you have your packet, the minutes from the May meeting are in here. We had a meeting in June. We just didn't quite get a quorum, what with summertime and all that. But if you've got the meetings from May, that was our reorg meeting. The chair would entertain a motion of any sort.
Chair, point of order, there was two corrections that were brought to my attention prior to the meeting. The correction is Dave Schuler should say Bill Schuler, and then the spelling of Regina Bear under unfinished business. Those are the only two corrections that were brought to my attention prior to the meeting.
Okay. Ann?
Mr. Chairman, there's one correction on there. My last name is spelled incorrectly. It's B-E-C-H-E-N.
All right, do we have any other non-controversial amendments to the minutes? Do you have a page number? Okay. About the 6th page of the minutes. Any other minor corrections to the minutes? Okay, with those non-controversial amendments, all in favor of approving the minutes for May?
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, minutes passed. We will now move on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, so after the potluck and the fair booth, some of the revenue brought in there, and then an $1,800 expenditure for the headquarters office, we're sitting at $10,972.08 in our checking account, and $1,114.16 in our savings account. Any questions or anything?
Excellent, and I just received a $500 donation from a legislator, which I haven't deposited with you yet, so I've got that with me. All right, we'll move right on to appointment of precinct committeeman alternates. If you're a precinct committeeman and you would like to appoint someone to be your alternate, we will take nominations for that right now. Cindy Reeves.
Mr. Chair, Cindy Reed, precinct 1516, I'd like to move that Deb Ewing as my alternate.
Deb, are you here tonight? Or what was the name?
Doug Ewing.
Doug Ewing.
W-I-N-G.
Doug, welcome. Would you like to just say hello? Hello. All right, well, we vote on alternates the same day, so all in favor of Doug Ewing serving as alternate for precinct 1516?
Mr. Chair, maybe fix your audio really quick, if we can just pause for a moment.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir, I just.
That's fine. I will, no, we'll just go off mic while they're doing it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, congratulations. Make sure you fill out your info with the secretary here. We'll get you on our mailing list. Thank you for being here. All right, well, are there any other nominations for alternates for precinct committeeman?
Mr. Chair, Russell Spencer, 1501. I nominate Cody Galloway to serve as my precinct alternate.
Okay, we have a nomination for Cody Galloway for 1501.
1501.
Is he here tonight?
She is
She?
not.
Okay. All right, we have do you want to say anything about her before we vote?
Cody Galloway used to live across the street. I think she was actually in Cindy Reese's precinct. She's moved over to our side. And her husband used to be the precinct committeeman about a decade or so ago. And they're looking to get back involved again.
All right. So, motion to accept Cody Galloway as the alternate for precinct 1501. Say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I guess a question for the
I'm sorry, sir. Is it just the podium microphone that you guys want to use, or do you want the ones on the desks as well?
Just the podium.
Okay, I've got everything muted except for the podium. That should help with that echo.
Great.
If you guys ever get a chance, you can meet up. I'm chair, my supervisor. If you guys ever get a chance where we can meet up, I can show you how to use this new system in about 5 minutes. So it's really easy to do.
I'll send one of the tech nerds to.
Yeah, that way I don't have to interrupt your meeting again, so I apologize.
No, thank you, thank you. All right, is there any other motions for alternate precinct committeeman? Mark.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Johnson, 2006. I'd like to nominate Dan Malloy to be my alternate.
Dan, welcome. You hadn't previously nominated him in May, did you? Okay. All right, Dan, if you could stand up.
I want to say hi. Used to be precinct committeeman for 2006, so I know the job. So.
All right, all in favor of Dan Malloy serving as the alternate for precinct 2006, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Dan. Any other alternates to be appointed?
Again, 1502, I'd like to nominate Mike Lewis as a alternate committeeman for 1502. He's going to commit time to make it, because the committee has before. Ms. Ropes, I'll take help you.
All right, Mike Willits for precinct 1502. Do we have let's say all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes. Any other alternates? All right, we'll move to nominations for vacant precincts. Do we have any nominations for a vacant precinct? Mr. Tibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Tibbs, 1706. It's with a great deal of pleasure and an honor for me to introduce Patrick Cabela for precinct 2109. I've known Patrick for many, many years. I served with him on the police department. Although I've
Thank you, Mr. Tibbs. Patrick, if you'd like to just take a couple seconds to introduce yourself.
Hi, Pat Bella. I was the alternate for 2109 in the past, so look forward to moving on.
Excellent, thank you. So we will vote on your nomination next meeting if you are here. All right, do we have any other introductions for vacant precincts? David.
David, 1414, I'd like to introduce Tracy Keelish. She is the elected precinct committee person for 1407. She moved 1402, so she had to resign, but then the person in 1402 moved, so that's is vacant, so I would like to appoint her for 1402.
Excellent. Tracy, are you here? Say hi. All right, thank you for being here. If you're here at the next meeting, we have a quorum. We will vote at that time. Any other introductions for vacant precincts? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. And we will get started with our candidate forum. And we have all the candidates who replied on the agenda there, with one exception, Brandon Woolf. I didn't put him on here. Is State Controller Brandon Woolf here tonight? Excellent. So we will bring you up after our first speaker. And so in an attempt to get through, to give every candidate time and try to get every candidate between this meeting and that meeting, we're going to offer the statewide candidates up to 3 minutes and all other candidates up to 2 minutes. So we would have them just come up to the podium, tell you what office they're running for, and say whatever they want to say. Now we are trying to record this for YouTube, so we have a camera up here. So if you could just kind of see yourself in the monitor while you're talking, that'd be great. So first of all, I'd like to introduce our Republican nominee for Attorney General of the state of Idaho, Mr. Lawrence Wasden.
Thank you. It's a great honor and a privilege to be here tonight. Thanks for the invitation. I apologize that my wife is not here. She's my campaign manager. As many of you know, that a campaign manager and a candidate spouse do not always get along. My spouse always gets along with my campaign manager. However, it presents a different problem for me, and that's when I wake up, I'm not certain to whom I am speaking. But her father has just been recently diagnosed with a very serious illness and was rushed to the hospital. She's at intensive care with him right now. So our family has had some struggles in the last few weeks. But I am running for Attorney General. I am currently your Attorney General. There are 5 things that are of interest to me: firm and fair criminal prosecution, protecting Idaho's sovereignty and its water, protecting Idaho consumers and businesses from fraud, obtaining the maximum long-term financial return on state endowment land as required by the Constitution, and ensuring justice for all Idahoans. I wanted to talk briefly about one issue. During the past administration under President Barack Obama, he decided that he would not comply with federal immigration law. And he didn't sign an executive order. He didn't pass a regulation, neither of which can, by the way, trump a statute. But instead, he had the Secretary of Homeland Security issue a memorandum. And on the basis of that memorandum, said that they were not going to comply with federal law. And as a consequence, a number of state attorneys general, including me, sued the federal government. And we did so successfully, ultimately winning that lawsuit, because Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the United States Constitution says that it is Congress who is to make an uniform law on immigration, regarding immigration. It actually uses the word naturalization. However, I was asked to come to an institution a few weeks ago and to defend my position, which was really interesting. It was a constitutional law class, and unfortunately they hadn't read the Constitution. And so I put that up on the board, and I said, this is why. It's because when the Constitution says that it is Congress who should take the action, then it's Congress who has the power and not the president. And so I defend my action by saying that's what the Constitution requires. That's what I have done. I will continue to do that, and that is stand on the Constitution. I have this terrible habit. I actually read the Constitution, do what it says. So you want to ask me questions? Have at me.
What is the biggest threat to rule of law that is currently out there?
The biggest, the question is, what is the biggest threat to the rule of law? And I will tell you that the biggest threat to the rule of law is that we as a people do not respect the rule of law, that the courts in some measure do not respect the rule of law, that executive agencies do not always respect the rule of law. That is a terrible breakdown, and that's why I've been trying to uphold that, including in my work with Mexico. What's the basis of that? It's the rule of law. In fact, it's called the Rule of Law Project, and I don't have time to talk with you about all of that, but it's really important that we have that respect. That's what separates us from everybody else in the world. They give lip service to the rule of law. We must live by the rule of law. What else you got for me? Great. Well, I thank you for the time, and I will excuse myself. I've got some other family matters to attend to.
Thank you
so
very much for
thank you.
coming, Mr. Attorney General. Give a round of applause. Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, we'd like to now bring up the Republican nominee for Idaho State Controller, Mr. Brandon Woolf.
First of all, I would like to introduce my wife and my best friend, Jennifer Locke, who's here in the back. Jennifer Locke is actually the Ada County Republican Women's President, and she's served there for the last, I think, 2+ years, and she's finishing up her term there, and she's now has been nominated to be on the board for the Idaho Federation of Republican Women, so I'm proud of her. My mom said, you know, you don't have anyone in the primary, you don't have any in the general. And I said, well, she says, you're either doing a great job or no one wants to do that job. And I says, well, Mom, I hope you're probably a little bit right of both. But I've been at the office for 21 years now. I started as an intern, and I feel I have the experience and the knowledge to help support our great citizens throughout the state. The other part that I always strive to hit on is fiscal conservancy. And what I come to is it's your tax dollars, it's mine, it's not the government's, it's not the state of Idaho's, it's yours. And so I take that from a very trusted and respected to take care of that and those funds. The last piece that I love to share and hit on is something that's very valuable to me, means a lot to me in being able to share with the citizens throughout the state of Idaho, and that's transparency. I recently came across a graph, and I think we can all share by the same thing as the trust that citizens have in their government is at an all-time low. And you can see some peaks. You know, during 9/11 there was a peak, and we were explaining to our kids, our youngest, who she wasn't even born. She was born a couple months after that, and explaining to her how we rallied and came together as a nation. And so there has been little peaks and valleys, but for the most part, you've seen that chart come down of the trust and respect that the citizens have. So how do we gain that back? How do we help the citizens of this great state build back that and have that trust and respect in the government? And I feel through that is transparency. And so my role as a state controller, we pay all the state employees, we pay all the bills for all the state. And so it's our opportunity there to show you where are those funds being expended. So 6 years ago, I started a transparency website called transparent.idaho.gov. And we just are working now, and we'll have Transparency 2.0. We expect to have that at the first of the year and have that go live and be able to share that with the citizens. That you'll be able to open, dive in, and see where that data is at, and to hold government and hold our feet to the fire. So with that, I thank you for your trust in me, your faith in our system, and again, supporting us. I live in District 15. Knowing all the others that are here, is being able to truly help our Republicans throughout not only this Ada County, but throughout the state. And so that's why I'm here to help support the whole state. So thank you.
All right, we're now going to continue with Graham Paterson for Legislative District 16. If you want to come up, and so all of our subsequent candidates will have 2 minutes, and Matthew will be keeping time.
Thank you very much, Chairman, officers of the Ada County Central Committee, and Precinct Committeemen and guests. My name is Graham Paterson, and I am running for District 16, Seat A. District 16 is currently a Democrat district, and I would like to see that we put 110% effort into taking that district back. Of particular importance to District 16 is horse racing. I support Proposition 1. A study was commissioned by Boise State to look at what the economic impact of horse racing was on District 16. And they determined it created about 285 direct jobs associated with LeBois Park, and another about 250 jobs indirectly associated with LeBois Park. So it is good for District 16 and is part of our Idaho heritage. So I support Proposition 1. I also want to say that I think it's important as a candidate to stand forward and say, I support Proposition 2. I was very happy to find out that the Idaho Sheriff's Association also endorsed Medicaid expansion. And that's really important because those are our police officers. Those are our first responders who are out in the communities and neighborhoods. And in closing, I'd like to read what Chris Getz said of the Clearwater County Sheriff's Office. He said, sheriffs voted overwhelmingly to support Proposition 2 to save taxpayers money, to keep people out of jails, and to keep people out of the emergency room. By expanding coverage to low-income people with health issues or mental health issues, they're more likely to contribute to society and less likely to end up back in the system. And lastly, I'd like to say in District 16 we have a tremendous problem with we are bisected by 2 state highways. I will work hard to be a voice for quality of life and transportation in District 16 because it does make a difference. Thank you very much. I look forward to your support, and we will win District 16 back in 2018. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. All right, now at this point, I'd like to bring up Phil McGrane, who is our nominee for Ada County Clerk.
And I'm going to spare you the political speech piece. I hope, because I attend these meetings regularly, so I hope most of you already know me, but for those few of you who don't, I'm Phil McGrane. Our office is kind of the wheels and cogs of county government. So we run elections, we run the courts, we run the budget, finances, a whole bunch of different things. I could use your help and support in my election. My opponent is out working hard, knocking doors, and has been active throughout the summer. And so any support really makes a big difference, especially here in Ada County, where it is so competitive. I think there's other members I can see in here who have very competitive races, and as members of the Central Committee, we could really use your help. So a couple of quick things. I have some yard signs in the back of the room. Please take them and put them in your yard. Don't just take them. If they run out, I've got a lot more in my car, and I'll happily load you up with yard signs if you need more, because I need all the help. Ada County is huge, so all the races around here, especially the county races, we have 9 legislative districts we're covering, and I can assure you none of us have a budget of 9 legislative districts, period. So any help makes a big difference. For the ladies in the room, I have 2 events coming up in October. So on October 16th and October 18th. On October 16th, it'll be at the Cottonwood Grill in Boise, and October 18th, it'll be at Moxie Java in Meridian, trying to hit both sides of the county. We have a Women for McGrane event, and I'm asking for sponsors right now. My specific ask to you is that you could pledge to invite 3 friends. One of my goals is to meet as many people between now and Election Day as possible. And so any help from this organization would be tremendous to my campaign. So with that, thank you guys for all your support for the Republican Party and everybody else. And there's a lot of good candidates, so do everything you can to help support them in this upcoming election. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. And let's move it right along. We're going to bring up our candidate for Ada County Commissioner, Ms. Sharon Ullman. Please come on up. Let's have you go. We're trying to video it.
Okay.
Whoever your face is in the monitor.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you all who have been working so hard. I know I've seen a lot of you out at the fair and had people interacting with me on Facebook and offers to put up yard signs. Thank you all for your efforts. We are running a low-budget campaign as usual. Don't take PAC money, don't take special interest money or money from anyone who contracts with the county. So this is a very low-budget campaign. Therefore, we do not have yard signs, just the big diamond-shaped signs. And so what we're doing instead is virtual yard signs. Any of you who are on Facebook, please look up my page and send me a friend request. Like my campaign page if you would, please, and share the campaign sign that we have. We're spreading it out through Facebook. We also need letters to the editor, to the Idaho Statesman and the Idaho Press Tribune, the Idaho Press, they call themselves now. If you don't want to write a letter, we can find somebody else to write a letter if you'd like to submit one. The other thing is, we did manage, thank you all, and thank you Ryan, for helping to stop the extra $3 million property tax increase, the foregone balance that the Board of County Commissioners was contemplating taking. We have another issue now. The county is about to spend $15 million on a parking structure downtown. $15 million. This is money they had left over at the end of each budget year, and instead of giving it back or not collecting it in subsequent budget years, they've put it in a pot, and now they're saying, now we're going to build a parking garage. However, in the budget, it shows as a lease amortization payment. So I'm not really clear what we're even getting for that $15 million. It's a lot of money. I would urge you please to write to the Board of Ada County Commissioners at bocc1@adaweb.net and ask them to at least wait until January, when the makeup of the board we know will be different, and that issue can be revisited. Thank you so much.
All right, moving right along. So we have a couple elections here in Ada County that are nonpartisan, and those are for Ada County Highway District and for the College of Western Idaho Trustee. And if you've been paying attention, you know I've been trying to do a proposal to change the city elections from nonpartisan to partisan, because I believe the party on the partisan elections just kind of ignores them, and that gives Democrats a majority to fill these little seats because we're not paying attention. But that, nevertheless, even though these are still nonpartisan, I thought it was very important to look and see which of the candidates are registered Republican and invite them to this meeting as well. So for ACHD and College of Western Idaho, there are some registered Republicans running and registered Democrats. Again, it's nonpartisan, so you're going to have to do your research a little bit harder. But we have some of those candidates here today, and so right now I'd like to bring up Molly Lenty for the College of Western Idaho Trustee.
Thank you for that introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. So I'm Molly Lenty. I'm running for the College of Western Idaho Trustee in Zone 2. This is an open seat. There are 2 other opponents. This seat is one that is voted on by voters across both Ada and Canyon County. So it's a huge geography that's voting on this seat. There are 5 zones with the school board. Or with the College of Western Idaho board, and it's very similar to how you would see with a traditional school board zoning piece of that. So right now my main focus is getting out there and meeting as many people as possible, helping to share my message. This is the first time that I have run for elected office, however it's not the first time that I've served in leadership capacities. I have led initiatives at the K through 12 level, as well as higher education, both here locally and then also across the state. I've co-chaired initiatives for the State Board of Education. I've been serving on the College of Western Idaho Foundation Board for a number of years. In addition to that, I've served on a number of different social service type of organizations. I'm currently vice chair of the Faces of Hope Victim Center. So I'm very familiar with the community. I'm very familiar with the needs of the college. I know in the 2 minutes that I have here, I can't really get into a lot of the priorities. However, I did bring some of my campaign materials that detail the priorities. Happy to speak to any of these. I've got a lot of really great ideas as to things that we can be doing on campus to better serve the students, as well as better connect education to the business community. I'm very pro-business. Currently the chair of the Boise Chambers Education and Workforce Council, so understand how we need to be bridging those pieces as well. So good to meet you all tonight, and thank you.
Thank you, Molly. All right, moving right along to the final candidate for this section of the candidate forum. I'd like to bring up Mary May. if she's here tonight, who is running for the Ada County Highway District.
Okay. Trying to get away from that. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. Well, I'm running for the ACHD commission seat for District 3. It's a huge district. It goes all the way from the north end, Highlands, all the way over to Canada. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. So as Sharon was inviting folks to help with her campaign, anybody that would like to come out and help us, boots on the ground, we're going to be knocking on doors and taking signs around. We'd love to have you. The reason I'm running is the 4 priorities for my candidacy. Better growth management to mitigate some of this congestion. I know everybody probably was sitting in traffic on their way here tonight, so I think we can do a better job with that. Ensure that there is a better balance of resources and priorities from ACHD across the county. Also to increase collaboration with our community stakeholders, other agencies, and in particular the legislature, and also to prioritize development to enhance economic development. So I think we can make a change. I think it's warranted. I think the time is now. So I would invite you to visit my Facebook. Come up to me after the meeting if you have any questions. Like our page, share it, and again, I would welcome anyone that would like to volunteer and help us get the word out there. And more importantly, on November 6th, I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
All right, well, let's give all those candidates a big round of applause for showing up tonight. All right, now we have some time scheduled at the end of the meeting for other candidates who hadn't signed up yet, so time depending, when we get to the end of the meeting, we'll hear from some other candidates as well. All right, we are going to move on to the next agenda item, number 9. So at the last executive committee meeting, the executive committee voted to send out a public letter expressing their view on Boise State University's eminent domain project to build a baseball stadium. And we have a copy of that letter in the packet. It's an open letter for immediate release. So if you'd like to turn your packet and review that. But essentially, the executive committee felt that with the pending nature of the eminent domain, that they wanted to get their view out to the public on behalf of the party. In general, I think, eminent domain is, we've all gone through Kelo, and we all know about the issues which led to eminent domain reform, which have been, somewhat successful in Idaho. I remember in 2002, it was 2006, the legislature did some eminent domain reform, but as you can see, we still have to deal with things like Boise State University taking property without the consent of the owners to build something which would not necessarily be considered vital for the public. This is a baseball stadium for largely recreational purposes. So was there any questions on this letter?
More can we do to help?
Well, that's a good question. We as a party can start to drill in on this more, get a little more active on this issue, find out what's going on with the landowners. We're dealing with Boise State here, so every month we could continually affirm our commitment to this, send it out to Boise State University, go to the media, et cetera, and that's based on the will of the body. Russell.
Could we maybe have a ratifying vote in this body? Or let everybody have been able to read it, and then it could come from this body instead of just the executive committee? So it actually would represent the Ada County Republican Party.
Would you care to make a motion?
I'd move for a ratifying vote from the Ada County Central Committee on this letter discussing eminent domain.
Whoa, just a second.
There's a
And that 15
All right, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Anyone like to take a little extra time to read it, or have you all had a chance to review? All right, so seeing no discussion, we will move to a vote. All in favor of adopting this letter as the official position of the Ada County Central Committee, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes. And we will move on to agenda item number 10. Cindy.
I just have a question. My understanding is that it was the state land board that gave BSU permission to use eminent domain. Is there somewhere we can find out who voted for that on that land board, who was in the affirmative and who may have voted against it?
Well, there are certainly ways. We will have the secretary take that down, and then we will have that as sort of an action item for the executive committee to investigate and report back to you at the next meeting or through email. All right, so I want to move on now just to a quick report of the Idaho State Convention, which happened in Pocatello in June. How many people were delegates, alternates, guests to the state convention? Excellent. All right, so I have included in the packet, the very next page is the past resolutions from the state convention. So this is just the summary of every resolution that was passed. If you want to read the text of them, they're available at the state party's website, idgop.org, along with the rules that were passed as well. And so just glancing over these, some of these were originally run through Ada County. So for instance, the resolution that I brought to Ada County several months ago to make nonpartisan elections partisan passed overwhelmingly at the state convention. That was proposed resolution number 13, very last one. There was a couple other resolutions to come through Ada County, or who were submitted by Ada County delegates, which was great.
Mr. Chair.
Matthew.
I have a small bit of business regarding the one that actually came through here through me. If I could throw myself on the mercy of the body.
All right.
Okay. If anybody remembers, when we passed the Stand Your Ground resolution, there was a small bit at the bottom having to do with going to the next meeting of the state central committee. I instead chose to bring it myself to the convention, since resolutions can only go through people to the convention. So rather than having to do that again in early January, I am throwing myself upon the mercy of this body to just vote to accept that as work done, so that I don't have to do it again.
All right. So that would be a motion?
Yes.
All right. We'll consider that a friendly motion. I'd entertain a motion just to pass that with unanimous consent if there's no objection. All right. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Matthew. All right. And then did anyone have any questions on any other resolutions? Everyone have a good time at the convention? Worth going, worth the $100 or so to get out there? I thought it was great. Oliver North was the speaker, big banquet speaker. And then we had some turnover in the state officers, so you can see the new officers are listed. Jonathan Parker was retained as the state chair. And we elected a new first and second vice chair, Jennifer Locke of Coeur d'Alene, Brian Smith of Idaho Falls. The secretary remained the same, Marla Lawson. And then we elected a new treasurer, Tom Keeley of Ada County. You might remember he recently ran for state treasurer and was unsuccessful, stepped up to run for party treasurer, and hopefully with his accounting background, we're going to be doing great on that. We do have one of the state officers who's with us tonight. Jennifer Locke is visiting from North Idaho. Is she still here? Why don't you come up and introduce yourself to everybody?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I was up in Bonner County last Tuesday, so it's a nice pleasure to be here in Ada County. In Kootenai County, we're having our Central Committee meeting tonight. But I just want to thank everyone that turned out at the convention and for your support. And I really want to work hard for the state party. We're doing a lot right now with the absentee chase on the state party level. So we're just asking everyone to get out and walk their precinct and turn out the vote, because it's an important year. We don't want anything turning blue. I really think it's important that we keep every seat red that we can retain. So I just want to thank you for your support again, and it's an honor to be here tonight.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, did anyone have anything else on the state convention report? All right, we can move on to item number 11. We have a new Ada County official campaign headquarters. And so generally during the election cycle, the party will, usually in the big counties, will have an official location that can be used by all Republican candidates as a meeting spot for volunteers, a place to, meet up for lit drops, get all your volunteers there, load them up with lit, send them out. You can have meetings there, you can have little events there. We have Wi-Fi and printers and that kind of stuff. So it's located right at 4948 West Kootenai, right on the corner of Orchard and Kootenai. And we're gonna try to keep it open, have pretty long hours and be very flexible. So I'm there a lot, Brock is there a lot. But yeah, so that is gonna be our official HQ. Again, it's open to all candidates to use. And as far as the Ada County Central Committee goes, this is when we organize our lit drops or phone banks, that's the location we'd be using. So Orchard Street is kind of torn up right now, right along there, but other than that, it's pretty centrally located, enough parking out there. And candidates, if you want to bring literature and signs there as sort of a central repository, so any volunteer who wants to pick up signs or you're lit, they know where to go. Please feel free to bring it by. You can give it to me tonight. I'll take it down there. Any questions on the headquarters? All right. One quick note. When we were at the Western Idaho Fair, somebody maybe who was working at the booth bought some shirts and caps. They were vandal clothes and brand new, left them at the booth. I've not seen an email from anybody, but anyone here leave any stuff at the booth? It was all vandal stuff, so.
Maybe you should say to go to you privately because nobody's going to fuss.
Right. We'll keep looking. All right, so now we are moving on to agenda item 12, and we're very honored tonight to host a Medicaid expansion ballot initiative. As you probably know if you watch the news, this is known as Prop 2. This is an initiative that people gathered about 40 to 60,000 signatures across Idaho to put this on the ballot to give everyone a chance to vote for it. We have two distinguished guests here tonight who are going to be arguing for or against it. And in fact, we have the bios in the packet. If you turn to the next page, there's a quick little bio of our two participants here tonight. So representing in favor of the initiative, we have Mr. Dick Armstrong, who's a recently retired Director of Idaho Health and Welfare. And arguing against, we have Mr. Fred Birnbaum, who is the Vice President of the Idaho Freedom Foundation. You can read a little bit about each one of them in your packet here. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring them up one at a time. Each person will have 5 minutes to state their case, and then we will do 60-second rebuttals back and forth until we kind of expend our time. If we're doing good on time, we can possibly open it up to Q&A. But again, we will have 5 minutes from each. Would somebody like to volunteer to go first? How about the person in favor of it? We'll have Mr. Armstrong up here, and then Fred will be the rebuttal. Thank you, sir, for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Well, good evening. I didn't know I was going to be here 2 days ago. So this was a bit of a surprise, but I'm honored to be able to come here and speak to you on this extremely important subject. My background, my first career was 36 years with Blue Cross of Idaho. I was in sales and marketing, building products for the private industry. I retired and was appointed by Governor Risch and then by Governor Otter to head up health and welfare, which among some of its major responsibilities, I'm the public health officer for the state of Idaho, so I was responsible for viewing public health issues, what was happening, what was causing risk of pandemic, how do we respond to emergencies, and a variety of other issues that that we all have to be prepared to deal with because we never know when something's going to happen in our communities. Also had responsibility for Medicaid, which is the health care program for low-income individuals. It has been predominantly for disabled individuals and mostly children. About 70% are children under the age of 18. Very little what we call able-bodied adult services in Idaho. I also served on the CAT board, which is a board that works with the counties to pay for indigent claims. So in Idaho, if a citizen has a medical bill that they cannot pay off in 5 years, they apply to the county, and the county then will make a decision on those bills. The county pays the first $11,000, and the balance of that bill comes to the state, to the CAT board, which is an appropriation from the legislature. And we would then decide if we are going to pay those bills. And that was a very eye-opening experience for me, because these are our neighbors who, through really no fault of their own, all of a sudden had a bill that they simply couldn't pay, and they were going to be medically indigent if they didn't get some help. Health will take you to bankruptcy faster than anything in this world today, because we can spend more money on your health in a month than you will probably earn in 10 years. So it really was a major event for me to see what was happening and the impact on these individuals' lives. As an administrator, I look at public health issues from the standpoint of what should we as society do? Is there a role and responsibility for us in dealing with these issues? Some of them, no, they should be left local. But others are so large and so significant that it really does take the collective effort of the state of Idaho to be able to deal with it. And healthcare, mental health in particular, does look as if it's that large that it really needs to be dealt with much more broadly. One of the approaches I always took to problems was, how do you break it down? Who are we talking about? What's the size of the problem? What is and the magnitude? Uninsured people don't register with anyone. You know, it's been a big challenge to figure out, well, how many of these people exist? Because they don't have to register as we do as Republicans. You basically find out about them when something happens. So what we have done is, of course, we've hired outside consultants, but outside consultants basically come and ask you a bunch of questions, and after you've answered the question, they tell you what you already knew. And what we knew was that through our other assistance programs, that individuals making roughly less than $18,000 a year in the state of Idaho, that there was probably somewhere around, and this is a few years back, there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 75,000. Today, because of the economy and a number of other factors, we think it's somewhere around 60,000.
30 seconds.
Okay, this is moving along fast. Anyway, the issue is, what are we going to do about dealing with the healthcare issue of these people who make so little that in Ada County, after they pay for a little bit of food and rent, there is not a nickel left. And you all know it if you have your kids trying to find an apartment in Ada County, because the rents are so high. So even if you're making $10 an hour, it is all used up. And somebody has to do something to provide them some medical services.
Thank you, sir. Give him a round of applause. And now arguing against is Fred Birnbaum. We do have the projector if you need it. Otherwise.
I think with 5 minutes, I'll skip that. Just let me know when I start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fred Birnbaum with the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and I am here to argue against expansion. And I want to bring up about 7 key points, and I certainly look forward to questions. I did work also in industry for about 25 years, but I'll save my time for that another time. The original purpose of Medicaid, traditional Medicaid, was to protect the most vulnerable in society. And today that applies to low-income children, low-income pregnant women, the disabled, and elderly who need long-term care. If we expand Medicaid, let's be very clear about what we're going to do. We're going to take people who are able-bodied, 69% of whom are childless, and we're going to put them into a program, which is something that Dick Armstrong didn't mention, is entirely going to be funded, entirely with borrowed money. It's going to be 90% federally funded and 10% state. And most of the proponents have said, well, this is free money. But as Republicans, you all know that the federal government is running annual deficits now of around $1 trillion a year and has accumulated roughly $21 trillion in debt. So this is incremental borrowed money that's going to fund this program. There's no way around that. Another thing I need to mention is you've probably heard, if you've read The Statesman, not that you believe that newspaper, that if we don't expand, the money will go to other states. Completely false. Medicaid is funded programmatically. So if Idaho does not choose to expand, then the money just doesn't get appropriated. It does not go to any other state. That's just not true, and I have some evidence. If you're interested, I can show you after. The way Medicaid would be structured under expansion is there's an income limit, and the income limit is a percentage of the federal poverty level. It's 138%. It's just under $17,000 now. I think it's $16,753. The problem with that, you think, well, that's great. It helps low-income people, but there's 2 problems with that. One, again, this is an able-bodied population, 69% of whom are childless. When you have an income limit, it's going to discourage people from earning more than that money, right? Because then they're going to be, if they earn $16,800, then they're off Medicaid. And we, in fact, have seen this. There are over 30 states that have expanded Medicaid. On average, enrollments have been doubled, more than double was projected. Costs have been more than double. And Kentucky, which expanded, and people trumpeted that early on, now they face a $300 million shortfall. Oregon had a shortfall. State after state, when they've expanded Medicaid, these things always cost more than you're told. And I want to just delve into that for a little longer. A firm, Milliman, they're a actuarial consulting firm, has done a projection. They've actually done at least 9, because I've looked at least 9. And they just came out with one that said the totality of cost for Medicaid expansion will be roughly $5 billion. But in June, it was over $7 billion. In 2016, it was over $7 billion. In 2014, it was over $7 billion. There have been some changes in the formula of how that's going to be private and public, but the recent ones are all the same. You can't trust Milliman's numbers, and the reason you can't is they're being sued by the state of Iowa, this Department of Insurance, for gross malfeasance, gross malpractice, because they so underestimated costs. And you can Google the article, State of Iowa's Department of Insurance. So we have a situation where we're going to add able-bodied adults to a program based on federal debt that has not worked as it was promised in other states, meaning the cost is much higher. And I will certainly acknowledge Director Armstrong's point that there are, within that population of roughly 90,000, there's some truly needy people, no doubt. But this is one of the big problems with Medicaid. It's a huge straitjacket. They don't let you just pick, say, the most 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 most needy people. You have to put on the college student living in his parents' basement who works part-time, or someone else who just chooses to have low income, as opposed to, say, a widow with 3 children. This is a terrible idea for Idaho. We have the benefit of not doing what other states have done and seeing the results. It's also important that you know that liberal interest groups put over $500,000 to get this on the ballot in Idaho, and that's on the Secretary of State's website. So the end game here is top-down, federally run government health care. And I'll explain that in the rebuttal points because I think I'm getting pretty close to the end of my time.
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. Well, the logic, the reason I say that is that healthcare is getting so expensive for the 1.3 million of us not on Medicaid that when they expand Medicaid to an able-bodied population with an income limit, why is it 138% of poverty? Why not 200, 300? If you are opposed to Obamacare, you can't be for Medicaid expansion. They are one and the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. All right, we'll have a 60-second response from Mr. Armstrong.
Can I have 5 minutes? 60 seconds isn't much. Since 2010, I've been challenged to find a solution for the low-income individuals. I've worked on many proposals. Not a one of them ever got a hearing by the legislature. They weren't all Medicaid expansion. In fact, I wasn't advocating full Medicaid expansion. The problem is we've got a situation with low-income people who cannot afford health care in any way, shape, or form, and they're sick, and they're having more and more difficulty, and when they get sick, they can't work. And then they become a ward of the state on every other program, which I don't support. We've got to do something because ignoring it doesn't solve the problem, and there are no other solutions out there that would be less expensive to us. Now, are the numbers exact? No, probably not. I would say, though, that our statistics out of the department are better than minimums, and I think that they're pretty solid. Now,
5 seconds.
it is a 90% federal program, and if the Republicans in Washington, D.C. cared about the deficit, they wouldn't be keeping adding to it, which they've been doing over and over again, which really ticks me off.
Dick? 60 seconds to Fred.
I'm going to talk about 4 quick alternatives. One, because I don't think politically we can fully repeal Obamacare, and the 10 essential benefits. That would allow young people and others to buy lower cost plans. Block grant a lot of this money that's going to Obamacare to the states, and then we could prioritize spending and we wouldn't be throwing everyone in the same bucket. At the state level, I'm going to throw out something that's controversial, which is require big hospitals that get taxpayer subsidies. For example, now they don't pay property tax or sales tax on equipment to provide full price transparency for their medical services. And then the last one is to encourage charity care. One quick example, and that would be to allow doctors who are nearly retired or semi-retired or just retired to practice without having to pay the full boat for malpractice insurance. So there are alternatives. The notion that we can somehow borrow more money and that's going to take care of a problem when we have an unsustainable federal deficit doesn't make sense.
Thank you. We've got time for another couple more rebuttals if you'd like to do another 60 seconds.
Are we doing a summary or Under Medicaid, the hospitals today are discounting their charges to Medicaid by about 50%. That has been an ongoing financing arrangement as their contribution to bring the cost down. Medicaid operates at about a 3% operating cost, which when I was with Blue Cross, the lowest in the state was 8.5. So it's an efficiently run program. Eligibility is done and wage verification is done. Unlike some of the other states, Idaho modernized our eligibility system and we integrated all of the programs, SNAP or food stamps, behavioral health, Medicaid, and all of the welfare programs are in one program. So we have the data that we know tells us who has been in the program and who has exited the program. On average, about 90% are only in the programs for 18 months. This is not a fixed population, it's transient. People moving up to better jobs and others filling those lower paying jobs that come open.
Thank you.
Quickly, Let me respond to some of those things. Medicaid is not efficient. The 3% is just the cost within the health and welfare structure. It doesn't include the federal Medicaid cost, but more importantly, the compliance cost of administration by providers. That's not in there at all. Healthcare in this country now is consuming nearly 1 out of 5 of our GDP dollars, it's over 18%. So what if the hospitals discount to Medicaid? They can push higher prices on the rest of us. It means nothing. And the biggest single growth in care has been Medicaid, and yet the overall costs are higher than ever. So all they're doing is like going to a store and the bread is discounted, but the milk is $3 a gallon. Hospitals are behind this. Big medicine sees hundreds of millions of dollars of Medicaid money flowing in. They don't care that it's borrowed. They're pushing this left and right, and it doesn't make sense for Idaho to sign on to something that's funded with debt that our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay back.
Thank you. All right, we've got time for 2 quick questions from the audience. We'll keep both candidates up here and they can each answer. Who has a question on this debate? Greg.
Mr. Armstrong, it sounded like you stated unequivocally that people can't afford it. But how are we assessing, besides just looking at a tax return or something, whether or not they can afford it? Because there's all kinds of circumventions. I've been working in healthcare for 25 years, and we see people that have live-in, boyfriends, and so they don't get married, so they qualify for the subsidies. We see folks that can afford their smoking, drinking habits, BSU tickets, lifestyles that some of us don't pay for. Where really are we getting the statistics and your assertion that they can't afford it without some kind of detailed monitoring of that veracity of that statement you made?
60 seconds.
Okay, so we recertify every 6 months, and we do source-based verification. So someone says that they're employed by company XYZ, then we source verify that income from that source. Now, do some of those examples that you state exist? Well, certainly they do. There's always 10% of any group that's going to try to cheat on a system. However, when you're talking about people that are making $17,000 a year, and even if they're living in a group environment, we will validate, what that living situation is to the truthfulness of the recipient. Now, if we get lied to, they'll get away with it for a while, but sooner or later the truth will come out. And for the most part, I think we do a good job of verifying it. But we won't catch every crook because they're very skilled at it. But I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, I think that we have the vast majority of citizens that are going to benefit from this significantly. And when they earn more income, the cliff is not there. They will move over to the insurance exchange where they get subsidized insurance like wealthy people get.
So one thing that people might not be aware of, there's a lot of complexities of the Affordable Care Act, but there's subsidies available for people who earn between 1% and 400% of the federal poverty level. For a single person, that's about $12,143. The 138, as we've talked, is $17,000. So for somebody earning just over $12,000, you can get a silver policy for $11 a month. So I think that is affordable for just about anyone. But what Medicaid expansion will do, it'll take people in that 12 to 17,000 range off of private insurance and force them onto Medicaid. Because if you're eligible for Medicaid, you can't get your subsidies. So this is actually taking people with private insurance and forcing them onto Medicaid, not the entire GAP population, but of that 90,000, it could be up to 30,000. It's not based on my numbers, it's based on Milliman's numbers. So that's something that we should all keep in mind, is that Medicaid expansion overlaps with the subsidies and will actually move people who are buying private insurance, who are able-bodied, onto Medicaid.
Thank you. All right, we've got time for one last question. David?
All right, we talked about the symptoms, we haven't talked about the cure. No one mentions that. I run Living Waters, we do a lot of detoxification, and we know this. Most of the stores, you go into a Fred Meyer, a Winco, an Albertsons, it doesn't matter. 100,000 square foot store, 80,000 square foot of that is absolutely poisonous food. We know that if we cut out the sodas, the cigarettes, the stuff in boxes, the cereals, the Oreos, the Cheerios, for crying out, is made out of glyphosate. No one talks about putting a tax. We're subsidizing the agriculture industry, and they're giving us poisonous foods, and these people are eating it. And I see it because we come to Living Waters and we change what they're eating. Detoxify the body, they heal. I've looked at some very severe questions, lots of examples, but no one mentions the problem. And the problem is the crack stores. I'm talking about the C-stores, and you see them going in there loading up their 32-ounce soda, and we don't talk about that. There has to be some way to address that as part of these programs.
All right, let's have Fred answer first, and then you can close it out.
Well, I'm not sure what the question was, actually. But I guess I will say, I mean, I'll attempt to address it. Certainly diet and lifestyle are hugely important to health. I think we all realize that. And perhaps you're trying to make a broader critique of the medical system, which treats, you know, not the original symptom, but not the underlying symptom, but the outward symptom. I don't think Medicaid expansion is going to address that, because if you think about it, it's a conventional system. It's the expansion of the conventional system. What you're looking at would be some sort of transformation, but I think we can safely say that expanding Medicaid, since it's part and parcel of the current system, isn't really going to address foods that people eat, because we do have data from states like Oregon where they did expand Medicaid, and it's sort of been back and forth. But the jury's still out on whether expansion has actually improved the health of people who are even on Medicaid expansion.
I'm with you on the junk food. I took a run at that a few years ago, and I got my butt kicked, so I just said, well, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. Amalgamated Sugar didn't think it was a good idea that we should pull back on sugar drinks. And let's not talk about the Potato Commission. So you don't have to leave the state of Idaho to understand what the problem is.
All right, let's give these two gentlemen a big round of applause. Thank you both very much for defending your position. And we have attempted to videotape this, so we will be placing it on YouTube so we can refer other people who weren't here tonight. So, boy, that was great. All right, we're going to move on to our next agenda item. We had a vacancy in the office of second vice chair. David Tezeker was serving as second vice chair, recently moved up to District 14 chair. So we have an opening for that seat. We had two candidates who contacted me previously. Their letters are in the packet. And so that was Gary Childy and Gloria Irwin. And if you guys both want to make your way up to the front, right now we would actually open the floor. We would entertain nominations for any candidate. Steve.
Steve Christensen, 1801. I'm going to nominate Gary Childy from 1809 to be vice chair, second vice chair.
All right, do we have a second? We have a second. Do we have any other nominations for any other candidate? Well, I will go ahead and nominate Gloria for the position of second vice chair. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other nominations from the floor? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close nominations. Somebody needs to make it. Okay. We have a motion to close nominations? All in favor of closing nominations, say aye. Aye. Or the opposed, say nay. All right, well, great. If you want to have the two candidates come up here, we will give each one of you 2 minutes to speak to the precinct committeeman, and then we will have a secret ballot election. So, Gary, why don't you go first, followed by Gloria.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Of my 2 minutes, I'm going to take 15 or 30 seconds I got to plug someone. It's a special. There's a gentleman in my district, Steve Simmons. He's running for state representative. Bright young man. He came to my door a month and a half ago, and he told me what he's running for. I have never had anybody come to my door asking me for their support running for anything. And I've been in this state 41 years. I've been in Southeast Boise almost 30. And I've never even had a precinct committee person ever come to my door and say, I'm so-and-so running for such and such. I need to plug him because this man is really starting off fresh and he needs our support. I did some of these little flyers he's got in the back of the room. If you pick it up, he needs your support, he needs money, he needs help. Thank you. I'm going to talk to you about myself. I started out as precinct committeeman. This is my first time. I'm also the vice chair for our District 18. I'm really enthused about doing as much as I can for Ada County and for the Republican Party. I'm very much involved in the Trump movement. I've been that way for years, and I continue it. I call senators and people daily telling them to get out and vote and do the things that they should be doing for all of us. I want to do what I can for our state, for our county, and the only way for me to do it and to be actively involved is to just kind of jump in the middle of it and try to do the best I can and have people help me, teach me how to do things, work with people like Ryan and people like yourself. I know most of you don't know who I am, and I hope you get to know me better as being a precinct committee person, but I'm looking for your vote tonight, and I thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gloria Irwin, and I come to you today because I have a passion for the Republican Party. I have a passion for our country, and I am a firm Trump supporter. If you don't believe it, go to my Facebook page and you'll see endless hours that I spend on Facebook supporting the Republican Party. I am very concerned about the direction of our country if the Democrats take the House, and I believe that in being a part of the Republican Party, the local Republican Party, that I can help make a difference. I am from Twin Falls, originally born and raised, and I have lived my entire life here in the Treasure Valley. I am a realtor and have been for 16 years, and I have served within the real estate NAMP Association of Realtors as the president and vice president, and I also volunteered a lot of my time within the campaigns and committees so that I could be out there and serve the community. I believe that it's very important to give your time, and I am here today to ask you for your vote for me to become the second vice chair of this wonderful Republican Party. Thank you.
All right, you've heard from both candidates. Our secretary will start distributing the ballots. And I think it's great we have two great candidates. I know for a fact Gary's a great worker. He's doing great things out there in District 18, hitting the streets. And Gloria's been a big help at she helped at the CUNA Days Parade. I think we've got two excellent choices here. And remember, PCs only get to vote. And that, I think that excludes officers, however, it excludes alternates under our bylaws, which hopefully something we can change in the future.
Clarification on that. It excludes officers who are not already PCs.
Alternates. Okay. While we're handing out the ballots, why don't I get Bill Campbell to come up here for a second? As you can see, Bill is modeling a lovely shirt here. So why don't you turn around and show him. Bill, our District 19 chair, he had custom made up a bunch of these cool Trump 2020 shirts. And what do they say on the back?
Keeping America Great.
Keeping America Great. This is his own brainchild. I think they look very cool. And he's made up a bunch. And did you bring them with you? He's offering those for sale for $20 each, and that helps fund stuff going on in District 19 and Ada County. So if you want a Trump 2020 shirt, please make sure you see Bill on your way out. Okay. Okay, if you're a precinct committeeman and haven't received a ballot, please raise your hand. Why do you have 2 ballots, Lee? Always causing trouble. Well, give it to Gary. He doesn't have one. Any other precinct committeemen who did not receive a ballot, please raise your hand. We have a couple up front. Well, let's.
I'm coming. Somebody else?
Over here.
All right, do we have a volunteer, 2 volunteers who can help count the ballots for us? Sharon Ullman, and who else?
I can count.
And Megan? Okay. All right, has everybody who can vote got their ballot in? Please bring your ballot up here if you haven't voted yet. All right, and while those are being counted, we'll just go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. So that's number 14, election night banquet. So as you know, we did the primary night election banquet as a fundraiser, and we're going to do it again in November. Megan Landon, who helped chair up our committee last time, is helping out again, and as well as Graham. And we had Megan, why don't you stand up? We want everyone to know Megan, because if we're looking for extra help, we want you to contact Megan. And thank you, Megan. So we're working on finding a big name speaker. We're working on getting all the statewide candidates to participate, because most of them are going to be in Boise at the Riverside. And I think it was a great event last time, because everyone goes to the Riverside anyways for election night. Our goal was to try to expand on that, capture some of the excitement that goes on election night, and direct those funds back to Ada County, because we don't do a Lincoln Day fundraiser like every other county, and so we're looking at maybe this is one of our signature events to raise funds for candidates. So we are looking for help. Anyone who's good at, event planning or certain things like that, fundraising, ticket sales, any tech stuff. Hopefully we'll be getting the stuff up on the website here pretty soon so you can pre-order tickets. But does anyone have any questions on the fundraiser? Cindy?
Do they have any details? Is it a dinner? Is it music? Is it how much is the cost?
Well, it's going to be a banquet dinner. So the idea is normally that ballroom opens at 7 or 8, and it's just kind of light snacks in the candidates room. We're focusing on the dinner hour, 6 to 8. And what we realized is, for the political diehards like myself, I like to stay up till 2 a.m. at the Riverside, but most people, they got to work the next day, so they want to come for a couple hours. So the dinner hour is really optimal to get people to show up and buy tickets. So I think it'll be pretty similar to what we did last time as far as the food goes. If anyone has any connections to big name speakers or, you know, talent agents, stuff like that, you know, we'd really like to get, you know, a name that people have heard of to come in to help draw ticket sales. So be thinking about that. Any other questions, comments on the fundraiser? Okay, great. Well, if every precinct committeeman just buys a ticket or a pair of tickets, the whole thing is paid for itself. So at a minimum, we're hoping every PC can just buy tickets. But at a maximum, sell tickets to your friends, get the candidates on board, whatever you can do to help. That money, the money we raise in the primary is helping to go to this election and our candidates. And then on November 7th, we'll have money in the bank to do stuff with for the next 2 years. Oh, that is really close. All right, well, we've got the results from the election. It's very close, but I'd like to congratulate Gloria as our new second vice chair. All right, thank you very much, Gloria. And thank you, Gary. It was 26 to 21, very tight. So thank you. A couple people didn't vote. All right, thank you. We have a new second vice chair, and we will move on to the next agenda item. Our YouTube page update. So at our last executive committee meeting, we voted to have an official YouTube page to go along with our social media presence. We appointed a committee to at least take a look at stuff we post before we just immediately post it, just to make sure it's kosher. So hopefully the Medicaid debate and clips from this meeting will be the first thing that we post up. And I think we can get a lot of publicity and interest, especially the Medicaid debate, because I think that was great. A lot of people are going to be looking for YouTube clips about that issue before Election Day. Does anyone have any questions about our YouTube page? We will be sending out the link to it very shortly. Okay, moving on to the next item. All right, proposed party rule change. So we have party bylaws. The way to amend those bylaws is a proposal has to be submitted at one meeting and then has to be voted on at the next meeting, and it needs a 2/3 vote to pass. And so I received one rule change proposal. That's from Matthew Jensen. So we will open it up for 60 seconds to introduce this proposal.
I have to time it with this, and I got to read from it, so I'm sorry if I go a little over. My fellow Ada County Republicans, as always, I am very, very lucky to be speaking in front of you. Parliamentarian without a complete review I would not be a good parliamentarian without, a good thorough review of the rules, and for the most part, after working on it for quite some time, most of everything is okay. However, there's a whole slew of little tiny items that, in all fairness, would not survive when they should the 2/3 wall in order to actually amend or change any part of the rules system. And so I also committed a lot of my time to making this brief as possible. So I can't enumerate exactly all the things that are little tiny problems that are wrong with it. But after consulting a lot of sources and as to what to do and not just going for the easy stuff and all that, I eventually came up with a process called the Rules Convention, in which now that will make the smaller stuff easier, but it's going to make it longer, so you don't have this 2/3 wall to change a lot of the smaller stuff, but the rules as they are now, we still need 2/3 vote at the next meeting to actually implement any of these changes. And it has to do with a completely separate meeting that different people from different districts go to actually either pass, reject, change, etc. And with that, I could answer any questions if that was allowed by it.
We don't have to do questions tonight. We'll debate it at the next meeting. So the rule is in your packet. It's about 3 pages long. So you are encouraged to review that, and we will vote on this and debate it at the next meeting. Thank you, Matthew. And there's also a copy to be downloaded at our website, adacounty.gop.org. All right, moving on. All right, number 17, lit drops. So with the election coming up, we're looking at helping to organize campaign lit drops and phone banking every weekend from next weekend till election day. And so various candidates are working on lit drops. Ada County itself will be working to coordinate with those candidates. We will likely be meeting either at the campaign headquarters every weekend or another location, depending on what district we're going in. But this is a big election. We got, Paulette Jordan and a supposed blue wave coming to Ada County. Now, I don't think Paulette's going to win, but I think she may bring several thousand new Democrat voters to the polls in Ada County. And if you recall, our tightest race 2 years ago was in District 15. Representative Luker won by just barely 100 votes. District 15 is the last district in the city of Boise that is held by Republicans. Still, the borders of Ada County, Cuna, Meridian, Eagle are strong Republican, but the Democrats are dominating Boise City. District 15 is our last district. Our closest district to going from Democrat to Republican is District 16. And we've been maxing out at about 46, 47%. But there are tons of new people. As you saw in the news, Idaho is one of the fastest growing states. There are thousands of new Republicans moving into Ada County. Where exactly they're settling, we're going to find out on election day. But District 16 and District 15 are very much in play. Everything else is pretty lopsided Republican or Democrat. We all know that. So 15 and 16 are, I think, the main areas we need to concern ourselves with, as well as the Ada County races. So the only seat in the Ada County government that's held by a Democrat is the coroner seat. I think that is one of our main targets to get back for the Republicans and to keep all of our gains on all the other county seats. Several of those seats are open, so there's no incumbent, which means that the Republican is going to have a harder time. So I'd really like us to focus on Legislative District 15 and 16 and the Ada County races as we work towards our lit drops and our phone banking. So this is the time to get involved. I mean, it's after November, there's not much to do. So if you want to put in any energy to getting Republicans elected, now is the time. So we'll be sending out more info on lit drops. And of course, any candidates who've brought lit, you can always, grab the lit here. You can take lit from the headquarters. Go do your own thing if you want. If you just want to hit your precinct with one candidate, we'll hopefully have that lit at the headquarters. You can do your own thing. But I think if we coordinate, it'll be a lot more fun and we'll get a lot more done. So be ready. Be on the lookout for that for next weekend. Moving on to number 18, Western Idaho Fair Report. So I really felt the impact of all the newcomers at the fair. I spent a lot of time there. We had, I believe, 326 completed registration cards, which is a lot. I feel like that's a lot compared to previous years. About 60 of those were from Canyon County, and about 20 were from various counties. About 250 were from Ada County. So again, when we have a legislative district where there's only 100 margin of error of votes, 250 new Republicans in Ada County is a big deal. We had a lot of people sign up volunteer sheets, so we're going to be reaching out to them with email. And I, again, really felt a lot of the newcomers' presence at the booth. People just coming up going, I just moved here from California, I want to register Republican. How many people here worked at the fair? Excellent. So you probably noticed that as well. I want to thank Julia Morgan, who served as our fair booth chair this year. I think it went overall very well. We got some ideas of things to change for next time, but with the great registration sign up, I think we did really good. Tom?
Would you like to speak on the report of your portrayal of domestic violence?
Gotta love Democrats, don't you? Do we have any questions on the fair? All right, we will move on to the next thing. So, we're now getting to the end, candidate forum part 2. If we had any candidates who are here who didn't get to speak earlier, whether they are contested or not, please come up to the front. We would love to hear from you. October is going to be jam-packed with candidates too, so we want to make sure everyone takes their time to talk to you, even if it means going a little bit long. So great, we have one of our candidates for Ada County Commissioner, Commissioner Jim Tibbs. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jim Tibbs, and I'm your District 1 County Commissioner. This is my second term that I'm in. I'm running for a third term. It is a 2-year term. Now, I have been in this building today since 6 o'clock this morning without Oreo cookies. I might add. Nothing organic. I'm not going to make a political speech as Mr. McGrane didn't. What I want to talk about is how important this election is. As one of 3 commissioners, we don't always agree. One of the biggest issues that we've been dealing with for the last several years is growth. What to do about growth. And there's 1,000 people moving into Ada County every month. We've had 70,000 new people move here since I've been a commissioner. They're working somewhere, they're living somewhere, and as we all know, they're driving somewhere. And oftentimes we get behind them. And it's tough. I really have to tell you that. It's really tough trying to deal with those issues. They're big issues. I've got a very aggressive opponent. Mr. McGrane has a very aggressive opponent. The Democratic Party is making a very serious run at these positions. If the Democrats win, you won't recognize Ada County in a year. So it's really important that you get out to vote on November 6th. Take 100 of your friends out to vote on November 6th. So I wanted to stress that to you on just how important this election is. I hope I have your vote. I hope I don't have to work too hard to convince you to work for me. We're all Republicans. We need to stand shoulder to shoulder and win this election. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tibbs. And as you probably know, the Ada County Commission is 3 seats, and 2 of those are up. So there is the opportunity for us to lose 2 seats. The Democrats would control Ada County. That's how important this election is in Ada County. And I know the county races tend to get the short shrift after the statewide and the legislative. We need to be watching that. All right, do we have a couple other candidates who'd like to just come on up and say hi and tell us about the race? Lee Jolet from Legislative District 16, come on up.
I'm Lee Jolet. I'm running for State Senate in District 16 against Grant Burgoyne, a lawyer. We already have plenty of lawyers in the Senate. We have some here, and it would be nice not to have a Democrat lawyer in there. So, in other words, yes, some lawyers are okay. I can't even say that with a straight face, but I'm a heavy construction foreman and superintendent, consultant, what have you. I know roads, I build roads. I know infrastructure, I build infrastructure. I know government waste because I have built some of the most wasteful government things there are on earth. And I'm hoping for your support in District 16. We need to build a wall in 16 to protect 15, okay? We need people helping us to make sure that the Democrats are spending time and money in 16 and don't have time to go and worry about their next big goal, you know? And in summary, before my 2 minutes is up, I'd like to share my last Facebook post. Remember, health insurance companies and healthcare companies collude and negotiate fixed, non-local market prices. This has caused the insanity of inflation in the national healthcare marketplace. A free market means buyers, and that would be patients, and sellers, that would be doctors, openly negotiate the value of a service. Third-party socialist systems negotiating with corporate conglomerates, that would be insurance companies and hospital companies, do not care, and I don't call them nonprofits. This isn't capitalism. That is a socialist system that's been foisted upon you. And if you have the ability to negotiate price, you will realize that this need for Medicaid expansion goes away, that all this 17.5% of GDP goes away, et cetera, et cetera. We can just push the market down to where it belongs rather than this giant inflated thing we've got now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee Joe, and we'd love to bring up now Mr. Scott Grove for Legislative District 14, the open seat for Senate.
Thank you, Ryan. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the precinct folks in District 14. Raise your hand if you're District 14, you're here tonight. Yeah, we've got a good bunch. And Marv Hagedorn, who was senator there, ran for lieutenant governor. And then he was appointed by the governor to head up the Department of Veterans Services, so he had to vacate the Senate slot. So again, I thank all of the precinct workers in our district that recommended me, and Natalie, who's back there, and David DeZecker, who's here as well. And went up to the governor, and as the one who won the primary, the governor ended up selecting me, appointing me to serve as a senator. So I'm a serving senator who hasn't been elected. I would like to be elected, and that's what's going to happen on November 6th. I'm a CPA by profession. That's my background. Lived here my entire life in Boise, and then raised our family in Meridian. Two terms on the West Ada School Board, so education is a big issue for me, as well as creating quality jobs here in the Valley, as I worked as a business consultant, and fixing our transportation issues, the congested roads that we deal with, particularly out in our area. That's what I'm about. I'd just like to say in conclusion, I think we have to be careful we don't take anything for granted in this election. I think there will be a lot of sure-tail activity from Paulette Jordan, whether she gets in or not. But I think we need to be careful and make sure we support Brad Little for governor. And I say that because a third of us here were supporters of Raul Labrador, a third of us were supporters of Tommy Alquist, and the other third were Brad Little. We need to come together and make sure Brad Little is our next governor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. Now we'd love to bring up Legislative District 15, Representative Lynn Luker.
It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening, and I thank everyone who's here and participates in the process. It's a challenging time. We have the continual pressure of those who would turn us to a more liberal state, and we need to continue that fight. I've been proud to serve in the legislature on the platform of limited government and returning tax dollars to the people who earn that money. Now, I would make one correction of Ryan. It wasn't 100 votes. I actually managed to win by 293 votes. But but the time before that, it was only 411 votes. And the point is that the Democrats have focused on District 15, and me in particular, because of my record of being a conservative in District 15. And we're out working. I didn't come dressed in a suit or anything because I've been out putting up signs and dropping lit. And that's what we need to do. And those who are not in District 15, I would just ask you, if you know people in District 15 who have a place to put a sign or who know a neighbor, we can use your help.
If there's somebody sitting at home that you know that may not get out to vote, let's get them an absentee ballot. It comes over better from a friend or a relative than it does from somebody coming to their door. So we can use all of that help, and we're going to fight on and make sure that we do our best to retain District 15 as a Republican district. We're the Maginot Line, and we don't want that to fall. And thank you, Jolie, for putting yourself out there on the line for District 15. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Representative Luker. Did we have any other candidates here who didn't get a chance to speak? We can maybe close out the night. We even allow candidates from District 17, but all right, we will have a candidate forum again in October. Try to get everyone who wasn't able to come today. Yes. If there's interest in doing a Prop 1 debate, then I can work on scheduling that for the next election if we can find people to argue on it. How would everybody feel about that? Do you want another debate? Okay. And now the Ada County Party, through our resolutions process, can take a position on any issue, be it on the ballot or not on the ballot. So we have a resolutions committee. The process is any precinct committeeman can submit a proposed resolution, goes through a committee, and then comes to this body. So again, if you have a proposed resolution, email it to myself or the secretary, and just get it in as timely as you can so we have enough time for it to go through the committee before the next meeting. Otherwise, we get bumped to, November. Again, it's any precinct committeeman could come up with a resolution to say we officially endorse a prop or officially oppose a prop, and we can debate that here. All right, we're getting right to the end. Do we have any announcements? Any other business? If you see the Janice McGeehan for Lieutenant Governor campaign is here tonight, please feel free to sign up over there, get some materials from her. Do we have anything else tonight? All right, in that case, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Name and precinct, please.
Bill Schuler, 2101.
Precinct number?
1516, Cindy.
Please be kind to the secretary.
All right, before we vote, if anybody wants to socialize afterwards, we're going to be at Whiskey Bar at 5th and Main, so feel free to come on down and say hi, chill out after the meeting. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, we are adjourned, everybody. Thank you.